Okay. Okay. We continue. We continue. So I'm using StreamYard if anybody has anything, because we kind of have this issue with that, because the trifocal furogram is not connecting to the cabannulator, which goes over through Danny's mental faculties, and then there you are, Jacqueline. So the computer system gets constipated when it goes through Danny's brain patterns. So that's what's happening. And then so I have to, when we do this, go over there and just slap down the ears and say, quit thinking it's about something else, get us back on the course. So we're back on the course here. So the dog's names, Arabella, Elise, Throckmorton. Oh, I like that. Emma Elise Throckmorton. Lala Elise Throckmorton. Layla Elise Throckmorton. Elise Throckmorton. And Mabel. That is your choices. So please, right away, before you forget, Bella. I will not do Bella. No, I think Bella's Haley. How come, Doreen, I give you the choices and you just, I was going to say Happy Hope Hartley. That would have been a good one. So, but I like looking at a dog and saying, hey, come here, Elizabeth or Henrietta. This dog's got spunk. So, yes, you can go outside okay, you don't like our choices. That's very good. So you can go outside the choices and just tell us what you think. Okay, I'm going to jump into talking about your hope unseen. There's 27 temporal hopes that have been pushed off into the millennium that are for now. So we have to reach sometimes for our Hopefully Hartley. That's a good one, Michael Town. So, yeah, we needed to type them up there. So we will type them up after this thing, and then you guys can just respond. Princess, that is good. So, 27 temporal hopes. We're learning about our lives and God's gift to us, about the gifts he gives us in this life. And we'll have to have them in the year 2020 to 2030, or, we're going to be living under the clouds and fighting fire with fire. So if the sooner we can get a hold of the promises, because what gets rid of bitter waters is the promises at the end of Exodus 15. Everything, every challenge is met with a renewed promise in God. And that's the way we move forward. It's the power. And so hope unseen is very, very significant. And you can look in the past for scripture references. But let me talk to you specifically. And Jacqueline does a great job in some of Adora Hope Hartley. That is really good, Pamela. Man. So, I like that. So, it's just fun when you're running around the house and say, Sebastian, Henrietta. Yeah, you wrote them down. Henrietta, Arabella, Emma, Elise, and then you're skipping Throckmorton. And that's the last name. And then there was Lala and Layla. So, and then a few of these that are really good. So, Dora. Boy, I like that. Okay. And Hope. That's awesome. So I will share something about directional prophecies about your inheritance. And, I had from The time I was 12, in the cubbyhole, the Lord spoke to me about my inheritance till I was 50. And it walked out that way. I will put it in my string of pearls in the webpage when I get help, just to get it written down there. But it will really be significant because you'll see it as your journey. Now at 50, you wanted me to ask again. And so that's where I'm at. And I'm going through these different hopes because they're promises that enlarge our understanding that we're just not headed to survive and pluck a few out of the fire, but that we're to build and head into a restored kingdom. So I'm going to mention some names that through the years, from the year 2000, I would dream about people and I would know them by name, even though I hadn't met them, because I would instantly have a name of a friend and their face would appear on the face of that person. And there was a lot of other ways that the Lord would let me know the specifics, because you're talking about directional prophecies that call people out for the rest of their lives to something. And so I just have to have a confirmation. So let me just share with you that in Psalms 27:13, Jesus said, and it was David, but he said, I would have despaired if I wouldn't have known that I would have hope in the land of the living. Hope is an unseen promise that's fulfilled. Hope is an expectation for good, and it's a fulfilled expectation for good that's coming. So, Joe, good to see you. So, the hope for the day, I saw these leaders in the Yellow House in the Hope Unseen room, and that's where they would see the day as good. They just wouldn't react to the day. They'd have a plan in the Spirit of the Lord, and they would be looking for miracles in the interactions of the day and moving people forward, and they'd be looking like Christmas for the gifts of God. And who I saw, who were those Proverbs 31 men and women who planned for a good future, and it came forth. The Luke 18:30 ones, that many more, you receive much more in this lifetime. Matthew, 100 times more in this life. I saw Alice, and I saw her name earlier. And Alice, I don't know how to say your last name, but I saw you, and it was many years ago. And I saw, and I wrote, that you would follow the Rainbow Lady. And the Rainbow Lady was the lady that saw the different colors or faces of God. So this is very significant because you would show people God in the day, and you'd tell people about their promises, and you'd have the people that you would show the face of the God of health to Jacqueline. I don't know if you know Jacqueline, but there's faces of God where there's a new operating system that you would help bring people into, and through a discovery of God on a greater level in the issues and areas, even when they had challenge. So I see you having a voice to Jimmy Baker. There's probably people that you don't know that are people to come, but I would be saying look for Havilah and look for Richard Lee and look for someone Ivan Ramirez. And these are ones that if you don't know, you will know, and you will give them hope for the day. The nature of life will change to where it's a celebration and a party through you. And there's one that you would touch that has touched you. It was a doctor, and this doctor was helping people with a new operating system for health, but this one was to be taken through another door of the discovery of God and advanced in that particular way, so that they had a tremendous gift and ability to help people with hope for the day, because it's hard to enjoy the day as much as if your body's giving you a difficult time. So this will be very important. And I'm asking ones of you that are on here, if it's not about you directly, it will be. By that, a lot of the words that I'm saying are types and specific applications for different ones of you. So some of you have really run into a hope for the day in the areas of health or the areas of emotions or in spiritual ways. But there is a well-rounded, strong, hope-filled believer that's going to meet the challenges of the day without a residue. They're going to be the hope ones, reformers that come into a room and they don't get changed by the room, they change the room, and that people see possibilities and joys just because they're there. And Kim Bishop, if anyone knows her, there's an unusual struggle, and the Lord wants to give her that sense of the hope for the day. It's not just surviving each day, it's really a hope for the day. Did he go?
Yeah, to work early tomorrow morning.
How early are you going to work? Because I'll get up 2 hours before you, probably. No, I love you.
Enough.
Okay, bless you, Danny.
All right, bye.
So, very important. Kim Bishop at this time needs to be reached with the hope for today. So, Jacqueline, I know that you take notes sometimes on the people, and I would encourage anybody that if there's somebody that's not on this, there's just sometimes people need a lifeline thrown to them, and they need to be reminded of the wonder of their life, or they hit something that they didn't expect, and they challenge, and their spiritual memory, the enemy tries to wipe out. So Kim Bishop lives Morningstar in that area, and so Melody Cochran is one who has a hope for the day, but God is going to open up a business in a whole new way, and even the development of yellow houses. So if anybody knows Melody, she's from the Pasadena area, and I would encourage you just to have her listen to this. I'm going to go on. I don't know this individual, but hope for the day, the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, and all the way through, bringing that day that we walk as though we walk on butter. Really, that's our gift. Christmas, it's really, we're moving forward. The Lord showed me a picture for this individual. And it was one time I went to fish and I wanted to get this bass, and I couldn't. I was horrible. I go to throw the cast and I get it caught in the railing on the pontoon boat, and it's all tangled up, and the bobber, the hook falls in the water. So I'm trying to untangle it, and I see this little bluegill jump on the hook, and I go to pull it out, and this bass I had wanted for months jumps on it, and it's flopping on the boat. And I had the Lord speak to me later in life, said, you know, when you go to the past and even had a tangled bass, I'm going to turn it into a big bass and a restored car. So feel this for this one, Trevor. Noah was on the boat. So Trevor Noah, and this one would have a humor that had an indomitable hope to it. And it was one of like the Jordan Petersons or the Tiger Woods, who's getting touched now, are the Dallases that are the producers of The Chosen. There's different ones that are in the right place at the right time, like Robert Prather will be, who's been a friend on these calls, is ones that are able to build a bridge in the midst of a polarized nation. And they've got the skill and the gift, and we're to stand with them. And Jacqueline Trevor Noah, I just had a picture of this one years ago, and that they would become somebody. And so I think if somebody looks around, finds out if they are somebody or knows them somehow, they're always called to have hope for the one. And they could take the criticalness of our day and turn it into humor where offense is not exalted, and fashionable, but forgiveness and appreciation of people's imperfections. And this one had a great role, and I saw this one in where there was a skyline of Manhattan or San Francisco, or so we are seeing hope unseen and people that are to reach them. And that started with Alice. And so I asked Alice to she said, get in front of the yellow house and sit on the swing with the porch swing with the Lord. And the Lord's going to give Alice the perfect communiques to be arrows to people's hearts, and some of those that have just been mentioned. There is hope unseen for new lands. Cities, nations were really, the enemy really tried to name those lands. And there are ones that have been restored in a special way, like the restored car, and which is much better than the new car. I've shared this story before. And they're going to reach people that are in a place where they feel like the cars are broken down and help restore them. Carrie Ann is going to do that. And I might name some people that Carrie Ann will do that by just asking, how does the Lord love somebody? And you'll see not with the correct mirror, but you'll see with that mirror of original design and just what the wonder they are. Like when I looked at my granddaughter and she had been tussling around, and then she smiled like I never saw anybody smile. And I just saw a level of beauty. And that's the eyes Carrie Ann's going to have. But also Jacqueline. Jacqueline, 1954, God opened a great door, and he released somebody that would fill this planet with more blossoming love and would be able to cause others to blossom in love. You're a Psalms 23 baby, and you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but you fear no evil, and you are able to bring people into their fields, their inheritance, and their inheritance of new lands. And you have inheritance and new lands, and those that are in those lands that you're going to get to let them know that they have a significant voice in that land. And they'll be the ones who reach the land with their heart, their wisdom, their activities. There's a number of ways that we can talk about, but Bujorki would be one that you would help reach Iceland and some of the key people there. And I want to give you this picture that I had. I had a friend, and he rode with his son. I shared about this, I think, yesterday, but his son lived in LA, and his son said, "Dad, will you go with me on this for my work day? And it's going to take me all day." And his dad said, "Sure," to keep him company. And his son put in speaker systems with the cabinets and is a technician, but his dad knows how to do it as well. But his son didn't ask me to lift a hammer. He just wanted him there. Well, they got done. They started at 5 in the morning. They got done like 11 a.m. It was a third of the time. And his son said, "Well, Dad, when you came with me and gave me permission to go in the carpool lane." And so they decided that was a lane of favor, and that when John ever went with his son, there was favor. Or anytime John gets in a car, it's favor. And Jacqueline, anytime you're in a car with somebody, it's favor. Their lives are better. Their seeing of him is better. It's like when you've sung in tongues and left that message for me. It's just you bring better. And you'll bring better to someone's Bajorki, and to Ruth in Norway, and to Angie Kelly in the middle of the country, but Angie has some inheritance in other places, and to Linnell. And Linnell is a Southern California person, but has an inheritance in Portland to help change some of the rhetoric and the things in Portland. And I hope you know this one. And this one will be part of One Nation, One Day, One Way. So you let me know how much that applies, Jacqueline. And I just take note that Keith Ferrari, you're going to get to be, he's got a caring heart, and he definitely just needs to be cared for. And Elizabeth Inlow is someone that we as a Hope Movement inherit. Her and Johnny, I gave them one of the first words in their lives, and have really been in their lives since then. And we inherit them, and we pray for them as a team and launch them into the reality of their inheritance and in what lands. So I see, and I had written down a name. I can't read it. I'm sorry, I'll come back to you. But there's like 42 lands you're going to help people inherit. And Sean, who was like a son years ago, Sean Bowles, you've got that lane of favor for Nanette Wooten and for Hilmar, and it's, you just can hold many in your heart, and you get to just overflow with the indomitable hope and the God-given sense of humor that you've been given. And really, Ken Henry, who I knew years ago, I just had pictures of, just telling what songs that he sings that really touch you and that really making a difference. And Hilmar. And there's a few that I just would ask the Lord. Amy Sisk, Siske. It's a name I remember from the past. It's not prophetic in the sense that I knew this one, but it's been a long time and I can't remember even. But she just came up as walking into the inheritance of her new land, and Daniel Lowe, who's Francis Lowe's son. And, they're really going to help build these St. Catherine's Hope Centers, which I'll send you the information on that. But I would just look at these names and be like Aunt May, who Aunt May just put their names on a board, and my aunt, and I was one of them, and just decreed blessing. And then if the Lord said it, send them a note or invite them to this call, this could be really what you'd just be the building block for. Next, promise from the Lord in this hour, which is so important, that there's a promise to hope, partner, and build from the nearness of God in everyday life. It's in Matthew 28:20. Lo and behold, I'll never leave you. But it means a whole lot more, where we walk with him in every activity, and he speaks to us and takes us into a different level of wisdom and an ability to have this Karian solutions in the midst of the day. And the example he gave me was in the kibbutz I lived on in Israel. The dairy cows weren't given enough milk, and I was leading the youth, and they're walking and praying. They're like on Fiddler on the Roof, but they're not complaining. They're just asking God for his wisdom and his input, which I would be figuring it out myself, but they invited God into the process and developed a kind of seed, an Israeli sorghum, that the cows gave off 2 to 3 times the milk. And they just always knew with excitement that there were greater solutions in God day by day. And they weren't just going to be victims of the challenges. And so there's an Angela Hale that I had a picture of from California that has a unique perspective right now, and is a crossover one, is going to be like a Jordan Peterson, touched by Jesus and understand. And, Jordan said, I'm terrified. I'm going through this moral code transformation to a historic reality about Jesus, and it's changing everything about what I believe and say. And Angela Hale would be one of those that just, again, I would ask, just, this is years ago, the Lord spoke to me about the time for us to be marvelous comrades to this one who is spiritual, is young, and I don't even know how to get in touch, but Pam, it was you that would be the one that would reach out to this one. And you just have answers for this one's desire for spirituality and building community. And just pray about that, because it's, you're not retired, you're refired. And I don't know how old you are. I don't know anything. I just felt like he said to say that, and that Mike O'Hara was a best friend of mine. And remember the days at O'Hara, and you guys comment if this makes sense to you. You were a lot like Aunt May too, and you would reach a David, and David would really come forth in his songs and his psalms. So if you're still on, please comment on that, or if somebody can get a hold of Pam. Pam, you would have a great influence in Jeremy. Do you know a Jeremy, Pam? And do you know the Jays? Joyce, Jeremy, and you retired recently. This is beautiful, Pam, because it's a launching time for you, and it's not like that you have to. It's a new operating system. That's beautiful. Jeremy needs to hear this. He's, going to be joyous, Jeremy, and Jesus was going to show him his face. And I would love to be able to, have a conversation with him, and I wouldn't get on him. I'd love his heart, and it'd be time to do that. And I'd love to do it with Gunner if anybody's on, they can get a hold of Gunner, and also I'd love to do it with Chad, Shauna's Chad. Just there's ones that we're to reach. There's ones that in this hope and partner to build with the nearness of God is my good friend Joe Van Heerden. And Joe, I haven't talked to for a while, but there's a hope hearing that's coming forth from him, that there's some ones that we met in South Africa that we're to reach to and to be part of a hope community with. And so, Jacqueline, if you're writing it down, just Joe Van Heerden and Shauna Kazer are some of the greatest storytellers of the goodness of God and of the history of God. And their stories are to be told, and they're to tell the stories about even the Yellow House. Certain rooms are going to apply to them. So I'm speaking about hope unseen. I'm speaking about, unlocking the storytellers, and, like a Bo Troy and a Jimmy Yoon and some of the others that will have a time where we come together and we share how to share the story of the Lord, because it's what unlocks people. When I get into a debate with them, it's a lot different than when we share from our heart. And so, I know that when I spoke about different lands, that it's very important for us to assert ourselves in these lands right away, because I've seen, and I'm just sharing with you guys, I'm going to tell you a picture real quick. I was the bouncer for our church, and there was a man that was kneeling at the bottom of our stairs, and there was a big conference, and he was wailing and screaming. He was about 6'10", huge. Well, he rushes the stage and knocks the podium flying. It was huge, and I run up there to get him. I'm half the size, and I just said, "You're not going to do this." He had this glazed over look, like it looked like the New Zealand Maori warriors, and I had hurt my back. So he said, "You're going to have to carry me off." And I said, "Well, lean over my shoulder." I hurt my back, and I threw him off, and I kind of got him to go with me. I wanted a word from Paul Kane, but we turned the corner, and it's a hallway to where Paul is, and it's still in the hall, in the church auditorium, and he's running, and he's knocking women, children, others. He's going to hurt people. But about 3, we had a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs that went to the church. 15. Well, they were all together, Card and Paul, as they were coming down, and it took about 5 or 6 of them to tackle him. So I go upstairs to the green room, and Mike had gone up there, and Bob Jones was there, and I said, "Wow, I got to text stage." Bob Jones said to me, "Didn't Mike tell you?" And I said, "Tell me why." And he said that a dangerous man was going to attack the stage, and he had a knife. And they found a knife on him, a switchblade. So I said, "Thanks for telling me, Mike." Well, I had a dream about the times we're in, and not to be ignorant and be prepared in churches if somebody comes in and they're just, the demons are trying to stir up, and it's darkest before the dawn for people often, but trying to stir up individuals within the church, or that come to the church or just show up there, demons in cities and demons in nations. And so I saw attacks on the Middle East, saw attacks on people there, and we were to be engaged together. There's a different level of education this year in adoring, getting above the clouds so we can see true solutions, and in proclaiming, decreeing what the Lord has, but also in our preparation, which you really get going through the Yellow House and with others that I focused you on. And so I would say that in the next week or two, some things are going to come to a head that are going to work out for good, but it's based on us not reacting in fear, but us proclaiming the solutions in God and people seeing that they're greater solutions. And it's time for us to be ourselves, not to be obnoxious towards others, but to be ourselves in the truth of what we believe, and to not be afraid to say, LeBron James, this is not right. This is not who you are. This is not the Christian way. To say Maxine Waters, to say to those that are opening a door for the attacks on Israel, opening the border for some other reasons. There are some insidious things happening, but they're not bigger than God. And so I want to encourage, when I talk to people about, sometimes I'll just give it as a passing notion about unlocking the people that are to be sent to that land right away with the message for good, or to Zoom in there, or to Francis Lowe and I. Francis has opened the doors to many nations. He's a sizable, substantial man that speaks to nations about their financial plans and about a number of things. And so, he has a voice, but he allows and opens the door for other voices. But there are different ones of you that are like Angie Kelly. I've been really encouraging you about your writing gift and about seeing in a corporate prophetic way, so that you're not overwhelmed and you only have time for a certain amount. But that'll go a long ways. And there's going to be, the songbirds of hope, but also of community that hope and partner and build in the nearest of God, like Steve Mallison Jones, that will bring songs that will help heal the rejected. He's fought through it himself, and bring the restoration. And that's a promise in this hour, is the promise for hope for human beings, restored human beings, and hearing for them. And that's, Steve is key. And Steve is to reach Chauncey Hunter, Jen Townsley, Brian Donahue, Julie Donahue, and Darwin Fuller. And Darwin Fuller was a name that I saw one time on here, and did not know Darwin that I know of. But that night, I just had a dream where he would swing on the porch swing with people, and be like a Steve Mallison Jones, and just commune with them and get down and oil their feet, and just they would feel the love, and their hearts would be healed. They'd have the power of healing those hearts. And there were important days coming up. for Darwin, March 2nd, I believe, 2019. So Darwin, if anyone knows them, please say that there's 2 little queens I see coming up that are queens of hope, and they'll need to be fed a different diet. And his voice is to get to increase. That he's walking with a Christian, a real Christian, and they're on the porch swing with Jesus, and they're going to bring people into that presence of him. Barry needs it. Les needs it. Charlie needs it. I'll see some others that they're to go through the yellow house, and they're to go through this hope room. And so, the way you would do it is just say, hey, come with me. And I'm just really touched by who you are. I don't know who you are, and I'm trying to read what I wrote when I was sleeping. So there is those that this temporal promises that we believe that cities and nations could be redeemed. It says sheep nations and goat nations, not just goat nations. Whole cities are going to invite him in. And there was one that I saw was going to help with New Zealand. And I hope I wrote that down, that it had more influence than what they knew. LINDACAVALI. And you got a promise and an inheritance and hope for the future there with that one. And Pam has tried, I'm back to Pam, has cared about the politics of our nation, but there's some other nations where she can spread the hope, and they're going to be influencers of our nation. I really encourage a number of you to pray about that, because you're going to be able to influence nations that will influence our nation. And you always remember you're an Isaiah 61 and 62 woman. And that could be the years you were born. So I'm so appreciative if Jacqueline's catching the time, then the information quick coming up on who's on the call, but just that people can listen to this and it would touch them. Hope for Love for Cities and Nations. Terry Johnson, just we got to connect with her again, and she would have a touch with Muslims, be like August Rush. Really interesting. And it's a hope I was to share with her now. There's a hope for Mike Town and bringing forth the King of the Nations, Jesus, with the Steve, Traymer. He's not a barbarian. He's a leader, and he's going to have a tremendous gift to prosper and bring wealth with the God of supply and the God of benevolence. And so is the one I said that was married to Christina, the Christian, Darwin, just really to multiply resources. And Steve was to talk to the one from St. Petersburg, Florida, as part of our Hope team. And I don't remember who that is, but wise woman that could really help with hope for the products in the future of Rama and Steve. There's 3 buildings, and then there's one there to choose. And so you would pray about it, our St. Petersburg person, and hear for them. So I am running out of gas, and I'm not getting to see who's on there. So I wanted to specifically, just speak to the ones that were on tonight. And I feel like continuing more during the week, but I know when I'm pushing it, and then I can say too much. So, or not make as much sense as I really need to. I'd just like to say to Shauna to pray about Krista Stiles. She's a sister. She lives in the place where sisters are. Doreen, I saw you on the first on there. I haven't gotten to see you again. You will have delightful answers for devastating situations. And what you say we're to do, like if you tell us as a hope team, we're to rally around something, just pray, we're to hear you and we're to respond. And so I want to really encourage you not to be shy about sharing with us what your heart's feeling. And so I'm hoping this updates. But Kua, we will see just this inheritance you have for hope for the future and the God of the future. You have always been the picture of the Soweto woman for me, that in the midst of apartheid, she was all the one proclaiming hope for the future of that land. And you're here for such a time as this. A lot of you have been sent like aliens and strangers to the United States at such a time as this, so that you wouldn't be bothered by it or feel like you did something wrong or right. But you are the ones that are going to have the song and the Iscarian song help bring the solutions. With one named Paul Huberton, if I'm reading that right, and Touchdown Tom. So if you're just on there, Jacqueline, let's just write that down and I'll get to pray in it. And then by your notes, it will remind me. So Lord, I just thank you and I bless these one. God, the courage that they've given the world their best. And when they were knocked down, they got back up and they gave the world the best anyhow. When it wasn't appreciated, they had the courage to carry others' pains and joys, sing the song in their hearts when they forgot the tune, and they had the courage to have great hope and to be great healers. They had the courage, these ones, to be themselves. It's awesome. They had the courage to endure hardship well and with joy. They had the courage, oh God, to live life to its fullest. They've had the courage to tell their authentic story and to believe that it has tremendous value in the earth. They've had the courage, the Dave Sheltons, the Dave Kings, to keep their indomitable sense of humor and cause people to laugh away into a celebration where they can see above the clouds and get hope again from God. God, these ones have had the courage that even when they've been in need, when they needed themselves help, they gave away. They still gave away love. So bless them and refresh them. Let them sleep in your arms. Swing in on that porch swing and cause these words and the remembrance of hopes that you have that are unseen for them in the future and who they will crown, how they'll be unlocked themselves. Lord, release dreams tonight that are true from you. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. Bless you. And we're going to continue.